Well, welcome to the RYA Cymru Wales Club and Centre on Board update, and thank you very much for coming in. I think we've tried using the chat on the other side. There is also another section there that's called questions, and there's also a little question mark button that I believe you can press. So this is a facility that hopefully we'll be making use of during the presentation. I'm joined here this evening by Hannah Cockle and Hester Walker. If you want to say hello, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Brilliant. So what we're going to ask is that I think everybody's will find that they're on mute, so we can't hear you. However, if you could send through questions, as we mentioned, using the panel on the right-hand side, that would be absolutely fantastic. And what Hester's going to do is to coordinate questions so that at the end we can answer some of them. If they are very specific to your club or centre, you have to excuse us if we just come back to you individually after the webinar, which I think might be just a little bit easier for us to do. So I think the first thing we can do is just a little bit of a quiz to find out who's actually here and attending, and what your role is at your club or centre. So just something a little bit fun to have a look at, just to give us an idea of who we're talking to. Brilliant. So we've got a really good spread across the board. Lots of training centre principals, fantastic. On-board coordinators, great. Chief instructors, fantastic. So we've got a real range of people. So that's great that we're managing to get the message out to everybody. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of what our plan is for this evening. Okay, we've got the agenda, which I'm hoping now you can see. Double check you are looking at my agenda. So, plan, welcome, introductions, and then plans to hand over to Hannah to talk about the Club and Centre update. And then we've just got a couple of Wales specific things that we wanted to go over in order to just to bring you up to date on a couple of things. So with that in mind, I will hand over to Hannah and we'll see how it goes.
Thanks, Ruth. I'm just going to pull up my presentation. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah. I'm just going to press go on this presentation. Let me know if you can see it. Okay, can you see anything?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see it up here. I think so.
Hester, can you see it okay?
Yes, I can see it.
Brilliant. Okay. Oh, hello, everyone. Thank you for coming in on the webinar. As Ruth said, my name's Hannah. I am the onboard operations officer working in RYA HQ down in Hamble. So I look after the programme nationally, so all across England, Scotland and Wales. And I'm just going to do a presentations about half an hour on lots of onboard updates. There's been loads and loads of stuff going on with onboard, and I wanted to make sure that you're all informed about it. If you've got any questions, just pop them in the question box, and as Ruth mentioned, if they're really specific to you, then we will get back in touch. So as you can read there, this is information and updates on the new look RYA onboard programme, and we're also going to look into the work we've been doing with Professor Bill Lucas at the University of Winchester. So I'm just going to go to the next slide. Check. Ruth, can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, I will rattle on. So where are we now? So just a little update. So this year, which is April to March 2018-19, we've had over 91,000 new experiences of sailing and windsurfing through OnBoard clubs and centres and trusts and sea cadets, etc. And that is individual people, so just over 90,000 individual people have been through an RYA OnBoard club or centre. And that's the data we've collected from you guys over the year. We actually have 260 venues across the UK currently, so we're getting lots of new clubs and centres signing up at the moment, ready for the new season, which is really nice. To date, 900,000 first-time experiences, and that's since 2005. Hopefully this year we can reach 1 million. That'd be great. Hopefully you guys will have received in the post, they would have been sent to your OnBoard coordinator, some new resources, some new OnBoard resources. So we've had teachers leaflets, posters, dinghy session cards, windsurf session cards. So hopefully you guys have received those and had a look inside. And if you haven't received them or not sure who they've been sent to, then please get in touch with me and I can tell you who they've gone to, so you can try and track them down if you've missed them. You should have had 2 or 3 or maybe 4 parcels over the last sort of 18 months. And we are continuing to work with Professor Bill Lucas from the University of Winchester, and we're going to go on to talk about him a little bit more. So I'll carry on rattling through. So we relaunched OnBoard in 2017. As I said, it's been going since 2005, but we relaunched it in June 2017 with a bit of a fresh look, a fresh logo. As you can tell, the Get On Board logo is new, and new website, new colours. We've gone for the aqua blue. So yeah, a bit of a fresh start for us. That's Professor Bill Lucas. He's sort of integral to everything we've been doing. He's an academic that works at the University of Winchester, and he runs the Centre for Real World Learning, and he is an expert on how people learn. And we've certainly learned a lot from him. He wrote a book with Professor Guy Claxton called Educating Ruby, which is all about a character called Ruby and how she learns in the sort of modern school system and what helps her become a better learner. And here are her attributes. So these are the things that are important to her to learn how to get on in life, not just how to pass exams and do well at school, but actually how to become a more well-rounded person. So you can see they all begin with C: craftsmanship, confidence, commitment, curiosity, creativity, collaboration, and communication. And then Bill helped us turn those attributes into our attributes, which are these 6, which hopefully everybody's familiar with. If you're not, then there's plenty of information on the website. But we've got creativity, teamwork, determination, communication, independence, and confidence. 6 things which we think definitely sailing and windsurfing, learning to sail and windsurf helps develop in young people, and things which are really, really important in school and at home and at work and all the way through life. And we've been busy producing resources to support these attributes and help you guys get the message out to parents or teachers or youth leaders. And they're the resources that you should have received in the post. So as I said, if you haven't received them, please get in touch. I'm just going to check at this point that Ruth, you can still hear me?
Yeah, all good.
Brilliant. Okay, I will crack on. So here's a little look at the resources a little bit closer up. So on the left-hand side is a cutout of the dinghy session cards. So we've produced A4 versions, which are sort of splash-proof and more detailed, and designed to stay on the land, really. And then we've also produced the A6 session cards, which are completely waterproof, completely tear-proof. I've tried to tear them and I can't. And they fit in your buoyancy aid, and they're as an aid out on the water to help you run the sessions. And they follow the youth sailing scheme, stages 1 and 2. So we're not moving away from training, we're working much closer with training. They just help instructors have more ideas on what to do and how to integrate the character attributes such as teamwork into a session. We've got lots of leaflets, leaflets for clubs and centres, leaflets for teachers, leaflets for parents, which you can see on the bottom. And then we've got our lovely posters, which I think Ruth is going to talk a little bit more about later on, which is in the top right-hand corner. And then the bottom right-hand corner is our yet to be launched OnBoard app. So this is a work in progress, and you probably, if you're the OnBoard contact, received an email from me asking for your feedback on this. So it's an app which could have lots of different uses. We're thinking at the moment it's going to be more of an instructor resource to contact participants and organise sessions and keep a track of where children are and what they're up to. So moving on then, why bother to do all of this? Why approach Bill and you know, push OnBoard forward? Well, the main reason, or one of the main reasons, certainly for some clubs and centres, not all of them, is to engage with schools. And we really want teachers to see the benefit of taking their class outside of the classroom and learning to sail. If you subscribe to In Your Element, there's a really nice article which you can find in the news section of the RYA website about a school in Rochdale who's go sailing and windsurfing with a local centre, and really it's changed the kids' lives completely. It's a really nice article. And luckily for us, schools are beginning to move in this direction. I'll mention a little bit more about that on one of the next slides. Of course, we want to promote sailing and windsurfing. We want to promote what we do. And we know it's not for everybody. It can be a challenging and difficult sport, but we know there are people out there who would love to do it and are not doing it at the moment. And this is a kind of unique selling point. So Bill certainly is a big believer, and I know other people out there are big believers, that the education system in England specifically, not so much Wales actually, is pretty behind the curve with this. And we are teaching children a lot how to pass exams and get through school, whereas certainly, again, Bill believes that we should be doing a lot more. And most importantly, I think, is we want to have young children out on the water, back at home and in school, that have a growth mindset. Basically somebody that sees everything as an opportunity, doesn't get put off by mistakes, and is willing to practice to make it perfect. And we'll do a bit more of this in the next few slides. So this is just a few snippets from just Google talking about why schools should build character into their curriculum rather than just teaching the basic curriculum. And actually, I think it was the 2nd of February, might be wrong on that date, that Damien Hines, the Education Secretary, announced that they are going to be building creative thinking and communication and character into the school curriculum. So that was really great for us. We felt like we were 18 months ahead of them, and we're already on the ball. So that's really good if you're trying to connect with schools particularly. So this is just a slide a little bit more about growth mindset and what it means, and it's a term coined by Professor Carol Dweck, and she's written the book Mindset, which you can see in the bottom right hand corner there. And there's two types of mindset: fixed and growth. You can see there the two columns, the kind of traits of the two. And it doesn't mean to say that you are one or the other. You can switch between the two, and you can have traits from the two. So certainly I like to think I've got a growth mindset, and I'm resilient and determined, and I'm happy to make mistakes, but I would also say I'm probably quite competitive and comparative. So certainly you don't have to sit in one or the other. And we want to encourage our young people to be a growth mindset. Ability is expandable, certainly, and they'll learn to deal with mistakes they make out on the water. So where are we now? So we've done all the promotion for this, marketing materials, advertising, produced the resources, sent them out to you. We've done all we can to kind of promote these ideas. And now we really want to work on the substance. So we've got the session cards. We've been delivering lots of instructor CPD across the country, and also CPD within the RYA as well, to make sure that everybody understands this. And we want to do as much CPD and teach instructors kind of as much as we can from the top down, so talking to training principals, coaches, chief instructors, to then kind of filter this down to senior instructors, digging instructors, assistant instructors, all the way down, of course, to the participants. So talking about this then, bear with me, I'm going to have some water. How do we do this? So I've used a paper here written by Bill Lucas, which is called The New Currency for Success, and it's a short paper which you can find on Google. If you just type in Bill Lucas Currency for Success, this paper will come up as a PDF. And he's talking about how do we build character into education, and that could be education in schools, at home, or for us, out on the water. And there's 4 steps, fairly simple steps, and I'm going to go through them now. I'll try and rattle through. I'm aware of the time, but I'll try and get through them. And I think we'll probably be sending this presentation out after the webinar as well. I'll have it available somewhere so you can go back and have a look. But as I said, if you want to read that paper, it's only short. You can just have it on Google. It's readily available. So step 1 is developing a real understanding of the capability. And by capability, we mean communication, teamwork, independence, those 6 things. So that first bit is a quote from the paper. So real understanding is just as important when teaching it as it is when teaching a knowledge or a skill. So for example, you wouldn't teach somebody to sail upwind or attempt to pass on that knowledge unless you had that knowledge yourself. So we need to understand ourselves what the capabilities mean before we try and teach it. So is this something we can do with our team of instructors to kind of not change the way they instruct, but just add to it? There's lots of ways you can develop an understanding of these character attributes. So we've got lots of videos on YouTube. We've got 1 video for each of the attributes as well, and I'm sure we can send out the links. But if you just type into YouTube RYA OnBoard confidence or RYA OnBoard creativity, they'll come up, and they're just 60 seconds long with some young people. We've got the broader learning booklet, which we've sent out to all the clubs and centres in those packs, which has got loads of information in, quite text heavy. So if you're really into your reading and you want to do some research, you can read that. Our session cards have got lots of information about the character attributes. Each session 1 to 6 is linked to one of the attributes, and then there's information in the front as well. As I mentioned, there's lots of articles on In Your Element. We've got 1 article per attribute to talk about what does this actually mean out on the water. And if you're really, really keen and you're into your reading, there are lots and lots of books you can go away and read, get your head around. And the one that isn't in there is, of course, Educating Ruby, which is a great one to go away and read. So if you really want to get into this, you certainly can. So there are attributes just a little bit bigger, and we realise that these 6 words will mean different things to different people, and it's important that we're all kind of singing off the same hymn sheet, if you like. So we've broken each one down. I'm just going to go through 1, but to sort of 2 definitions. So teamwork is can communicate with others, and the capacity to see the world from someone else's perspective. So each of the 6 attributes has got 2 kind of subheadings, and again, that's on the website, on the RYA OnBoard website, and in the broader learning booklet as well, if you want to go away and have a look. On the website, you just click on broader learning and then click on the puzzle piece, and it will come up with the 2 definitions. So step 2 then is create the climate for the capability to flourish. So what I mean here by climate is actually our culture, the culture of our club or our centre, or whatever it is that you're taking children out on the water from. We are the product of our environment is actually a quote from a book by I've forgotten what it's called now. I think it's called Legends, which is about the New Zealand All Black rugby team. So a very extreme example, but certainly something we can learn from. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, but it's important to realise what messages we're giving out. So what have we got up on the walls? Have we got signs saying members only? Have we got leaderboards of people that have won races? And what are instructor styles like? It's really, really important. We'll think about what we can do to our sessions to cultivate these attributes. So teaching stage 1, 2, 3, 4, what can we include in our sessions to grow these attributes? And we think adventurous activities, sail away days, games with aims, fun stuff. Kids are really, really, enjoyment is the most important part for young children. And that's also sort of backed up by the research, by the Active Lives survey, which just came out a couple of weeks ago, a couple of days ago. Again, you can find it on Google. And the top 5 reasons, one of the top 5 reasons children participate in sport is purely enjoyment. They just want to have fun. They don't want to win. They're not necessarily bothered about the skills. They're not so competitive. They just want to have fun. And that's of course not true for everybody, but it is general. So role models is really, really, really important. So that might be a young person in the club who's part of the committee, or certainly our instructors, and just everybody around the club or centre who the kids might look up to. So that's just a really nice quote, which I think encapsulates everything I've said there. And just going back to the All Blacks, the book by the All Blacks, they say that you're never too big to do the little things, right down to after a big international match, some of the famous elite rugby players will stay behind and clean up the changing room. So it's just having a culture as close to that as we possibly can, where everybody pitches in, and like it says, nobody's too big to do the little things. Everybody helps each other out and hopefully has fun. So, and I think I've just mentioned as well that is completely free. There's nothing in there that would cost a club or centre any money. Culture and the soft skills are all completely free. So step 3, create the context. And basically we're saying here is that we're not asking you to go away and change your sessions from learning how to tack and sail on a beam reach to teaching sessions about being independent. We're saying teach them together, teach them as one. So capabilities are not taught or learned in a vacuum. And we're going to have a little look at this in the next few slides. So that's step 3, really embedding it within the session. So this is a planning exercise, which if we were all sat down in a room together, we could do. And I know we're not all sat down in a room together, but I thought I'd keep it on here because it's something you might be able to go away and do with your team of volunteers or instructors or staff, or anybody that's got anything to do with OnBoard. So in groups of 4 or however many you've got, pick one capability, so creativity or determination, and then one session, and that could be start racing, or it could be learning to drive, anything, any session. And then just discuss in groups how you might adapt the session for that character attribute. So we're still teaching the skills, we're still teaching the training scheme, but what might we include, what might we do differently? And obviously that one was for if we were sat together. So there are just some ideas there to read through. So for example, instead of giving them all the answers and saying this is exactly what we're going to do, give them a problem or give them time to make mistakes until they come up with the answers themselves. Independence, take a step back. So maybe this could be something simple like rigging, taking a step back on the 3rd or 4th session and letting them do it and make mistakes and then rectify them together. Communication, loads of stuff you can do with communication, as simple as playing games that aren't even related to sailing to get the group talking, little icebreakers, and then teamwork, team challenges, races, anything you can think of. Okay, moving on. Last step then, build learner engagement and commitment to the capability. Again, that's a quote from Bill's paper. And certainly from our point of view, and I mean RYA OnBoard as a whole, this is a long-term shift in delivery rather than a short-term fix. So we really, really want to disseminate this down through everybody that we can speak to, through webinars just like this, or going to the conferences and really talking to everyone about this. And I mentioned this before, we can't go out and speak to every single assistant instructor, dinghy instructor, windsurf instructor, so we've got to do it from the touch points that we have. So coaches and trainers, or people like yourselves who've joined in the webinar and have contact with RYA OnBoard through the Club Centre. So another thing we can think about doing is, instead of just recognising first, second, third, we could recognise people for having great teamwork or great determination. And I'm sure loads and loads of you are already doing this, but really making sure that everybody's valued for having that growth mindset and really pushing forwards. And actually setting goals on the character rather than skills. So instead of saying, right, our goal today is to complete the perfect jibe, we could actually set another goal to say, today we're going to really, really work on our teamwork, or really, really work on our communication. And that's a really, really nice quote there from Mark Jardine from one of the other RYA webinars. If you give kids the freedom to make their own choices, they will take responsibility for their sailing and enjoy it more for all the right reasons. And again, coming back to the idea of kids just doing it because they want to enjoy it, they want to have fun. Okay, so that's the 4 steps all done. I hope that made sense and actually isn't anything really more than a lot of common sense. And feel free, if you've got any questions or you want to talk to me about it a little bit more, to give me a call in the office or drop me an email. So I'm just going to rattle through some OnBoard updates. So a lot of you would have had emails from me about the Panerai Challenger Trophy. Nominations closed on the 1st of April, unfortunately. This was a big opportunity for clubs to gain some funding, up to £10,000. But the good news is it will be open for 1 more year. So it's a long way away, but in March next year, it'll open back up, and it's 4 clubs can get some really good funding for OnBoard, and it is exclusive to OnBoard clubs and centres. So only those 260 people can apply. This year we only had 24 nominations, so it's a pretty high chance of getting some funding. The John Merrick Sailing Trust, applications for that open in July. And just briefly to let you know, that is if you've got any young sailors who are showing a bit of promise with their sailing, enjoying it, but they don't have the financial backing to buy their own boat, then the JMST, they can apply for their own boat, one of the single-handed pathway boats, so Terra, Optimist, Laser, Topper or Big Techno. And they keep it for 2 years, and then it goes to the Club or Centre to keep for the rest of the time. And then just the middle photo on the top there is Clay. He's with the windsurf kit. He was awarded some JMST kit, and he's just started his 2nd year of having it. And after he's finished with it, that will go to the official test centre or the Osprey Training Centre in Weymouth. So you can apply, your young people can apply for that if they can't afford to buy their own equipment. What used to be called the Zone Champs is now called the very catchy British Youth Sailing Regional Junior Champs. This will be happening on the 28th and 29th of September this year, so write that one in your diary. And we will be having, again, for the 2nd year running, an OnBoard fun fleet, which means anybody can get involved. So they've always had the coach fleet and the regatta fleet, but this is bringing it down another level so that OnBoard children can get involved. And it's worth mentioning that you must go to the Regional Junior Champs to apply for JMST. So, and you can't have your own boat. So those 2 things, you can't have your own boat and you must go to the Regional Junior Champs. The windsurfing session cards are complete, ready, done, and if you deliver windsurfing, you should have received these not last week, but the week before. You should have received them in the post. If windsurfing is something you'd like to deliver, then you can certainly get your hands on those as well. And then just to quickly mention everybody's favourite subject, onboard data. This is the only thing we ask of you guys in return for being part of the onboard programme at the end of every month, to tell us how many juniors, and that is all of your juniors, have had their first go. So that could be anyone aged 8 to 18, whether they're walking in for a taster session or an open day, or they've come onto a stage 1, and they only get counted once. So once they've come once, you don't count them again. So it should be a fairly simple process. And that's all juniors 8 to 18. So it's not just your school groups, it's not just your onboard clubs on a Tuesday evening or whenever you do it, it's all your juniors. And that helps us keep a track of the healthiness of junior participation across the country. And thank you, Wales, for being great at doing data. It really makes my life a lot easier, so thank you. And that's it from me. At this point, I would have people shouting out some questions, but if you just write them in the question box, we can get back to you either on here or individually. And now I'm going to hope that I've been listened to this whole time and pass back to Ruth.
Hi, Hannah. Yeah, you're brilliant. You definitely have. Everyone can hear you. So they've all written in the question box to let us know. What I'm going to do, I'll just switch back to me now, because we've got a couple of bit of Wales specific things for us to have a think about. And that gives everyone a little bit of time to have a think about some questions, maybe. Brilliant. Okay. Oh, back. There we go. So, Hannah mentioned a bit about some of the resources or pop up, and we've been doing a little bit of work on resources in Wales just to support the Welsh programme. We're very conscious that here in Wales that we have 20% of the population who speak Welsh. So we've now, at the moment, and it will become a little bit clearer a bit later on, but we've just been working on 2 key things, which was to get the posters done. So there'll be a full set of posters for everybody to go up in their clubs with the all the character attributes available in Welsh, and just literally hot off the press, well, hot off the graphic designer's table, we have a parents leaflet. So I'll be coming back to you guys, I think, after this, just to come back to you and ask you to have a bit of an estimate about how many of you think you need of those in Welsh for giving out to your onboard participants. So it's a bit of a think about how many you need to help support the participation of your sailors for them to take home to go out to their parents, especially those that may be taking part for that one time. Okay, so Hannah alluded a little bit to it earlier, and I think she undersaid it a bit. Bill Lucas described the new Welsh curriculum, which is coming in, will be launched in 2020, as being exciting in the world of education and curriculum, which is absolutely fantastic. And I think we should feel very privileged for the work that's been going into it. I'd hope to share a little bit more than I can tonight with you, but I was in a very lucky position to go to a briefing on it last week, and they've actually come back and asked us not to say a whole lot, because actually there's some teachers out there that haven't been told about this yet. So we're in a slightly, nice position to have found out some of the exciting things which will hopefully support us going forwards. It's very much going to be around a matrix-based curriculum. Come back. Sorry, I've just lost my screen for a second. And how they describe it is something which is what they describe as being process-driven. So there's actually no fixed syllabus. What there is something that they describe as a continuation of learning. And there are 6 areas of learning. We believe sailing and windsurfing actually falls into a number of those areas, which is fantastic. And within each of those areas, there's also between 4 and 7 what they call what matters statements. So to give you a little bit of an idea, and then within those what matters statements, the sort of thing, the questions that are being asked are, you know, questions about becoming able to self-regulate, becoming less egocentric, sophistication of knowledge, developmental growth. So all of these things you can see starting to come out of this fits really, really well with some of the stuff Hannah's been talking about around the creativity, the communication, the independence, you know, looking at the child as a whole. And from that, taking that learner-centred approach so that the learning is very much driven by the young people. So absolutely fantastic opportunity for us. And we believe that OnBoard is going to fit really, really nicely with that. The second key part of that is something called physical literacy. Now, Sport Wales has been talking about physical literacy for a long time now, over 10 years. However, they've only really been relating it and understanding it in relation to what they call dragon sport, or the sort of key stuff that's happened in that you find happening in primary schools. I think, and maybe hadn't really thought about it in relation to outdoor education. One of the great things I think now is that we're now in a position. Oh, sorry everyone, I seem to be losing where I am. No, it's vanished. There we go. Sorry. So physical literacy. So looking at that now in relation to outdoor education, and in our case specifically sailing and windsurfing. You know, if you look back to some of those key character attributes, you can actually see how some of those really start to underpin some of the real key areas of physical literacy. Thinking about the confidence, the motivation, you know, that fun, enjoyment, having better understanding of knowledge, having physical skills, learning to do stuff, taking responsibility for your learning. All those sorts of things fit around this really, really nicely. And with that, to help us continue to support the OnBoard programme in Wales, we intend to certainly align the session cards, which I think you've already had for sailing and windsurfing. They're going to be aligned to the new curriculum in Wales, and physical literacy with that. So I think that's pretty exciting going forwards. The reality is the actual finalised curriculum is not going to be with us until, well, officially launched till January 2020. So we're in a little bit of a waiting period of time. But hopefully by this time next year, we'll be in a better position where we can sit there and say, hey guys, we've got some resource for you. Session cards, which will allow you as clubs and centres to talk to your schools and teachers about what sailing and windsurfing can do for their sailors, and how it aligns up to those two key areas, which are really their two key areas of concern, which will be the new curriculum and physical literacy. And with that, our intention is also to produce some of the teacher leaflets to go with that as well. So pretty good, and hopefully that's exciting stuff to come. Then I guess it's if anyone's got any questions around that, I suppose. Beyond that, I think, Hannah, we were going to have a little bit of a chat about the OnBoard app survey that was sent round.
Yep.
Did you want to say something about that before we leap into questions, just to give people a little bit of a chance to do some typing?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, the OnBoard app is still in development. We've got the go-ahead to do the OnBoard app, but really we don't want to launch into having an app just because we think it's the right thing to do, and because, you know, we think where we are with technology we should have an app. We want to ask as many young people as possible what they think of it, but probably more importantly, as we think the users will be, the training principals, the chief instructors, the coaches and the instructors. Actually, they're the people who are going to use it. So we sent out a survey with lots of questions on what you think would be important in an app, or what you think would be less important, and even if you thought an app would be useful at all. So do you think it would be good for a way for instructors to talk to each other, talk to the participants with the parental overview, and you know, tell participants this session's happening, please make sure you remember this, and also to keep a log of where each person is along the syllabus to say, oh, this person has completed this and plans for the next session, and just a bit of an organisational tool. There's also the capability on there to have qualifications. So you can keep digital versions of your qualifications on there instead of having paper copies. And also the potential for children to log their activity, to say they've been sailing, and have a leaderboard within the club or centre for, you know, who's done the most hours out in the water, or who's achieved the most teamwork skills or something like that. It's got lots of capabilities. We don't necessarily think it should do all of these things, but really we want you to tell us, A, yes, you think it's a good idea, B, this is what you should include. So we're not doing something from our kind of ivory tower. This is what we think we should do. We really want to consult with as many people from onboard clubs and centres as possible. So if you can, if you do have the time to fill it out, that would be really great.
Brilliant. Hester, have you had any questions come into you?
Yeah, I'm just going to put my webcam on. Hello, everyone. I've got a couple of things to add. Firstly, the British Youth Sailing Welsh Regional Championships is actually going to be the weekend before the one that Hannah said. So the date of the Welsh one will actually be the 21st and 22nd of September. So that's really important to make sure that the Welsh clubs know that that is different to the rest of the country.
Sorry.
That's right, no, it's fine. We've also got the onboard regattas taking place in Bala and Llangors the same weekend, 31st of August and 1st of September. So that's the first thing that I wanted to get out the way. So we've got those dates. Questions. What funding is there available for onboard clubs in Wales? I can answer that one. Whether you're an onboard club or not, it's a fantastic project to package up something that is a project around onboard. So if you're looking for some funding for the season ahead, for example, you might need some training sales for your toppers, for the little ones that are starting out, or you might want to have an AI go on a DI course. For anything that's coach education based, it could be first aid, it could be VHF courses, any number of things. Capital resources or coach ed, the community chess grants are available through Sport Wales website. They are £1,500 annually. It could be split between two applications, but the important thing to note is if you apply for £500 for one part of a project, you've got to have completed that application before you apply for the remaining £1,000 in that financial year. All the sports development team, so myself in West Wales, Pete Musket in South Wales, and hopefully in due course we'll have someone based in North Wales, but again, just approach me. We'll be able to give you some guidance and some assistance to actually make those applications. They go to your local authority ward for panel assessment 4 times a year. The dates vary. Sport Wales have got the dates for your local authority, but they can be submitted at any time, and then the panel will meet, assess the application, and you get an answer very quickly as to whether you've been successful. One other request is, this might be one for Hannah to answer, is GIL have been providing access to a catalogue of reduced, equipment for clubs, to onboard clubs and centres to access. Is that still the case?
Okay, no, that is not still the case. So GIL stopped sponsoring sport development last year. I think they had some new management in and they just wanted to reassess everything and all the people they were sponsoring, and they pulled out of their sponsorship for sport development and by extension RYA OnBoard. That doesn't mean to say you can't still wear your onboard GIL stuff, but there's no longer a partnership. The good news is that Helly Hansen, I don't know if you guys can see me. Can you see me? Helly Hansen are our new sponsors. So they've just come on board with sport development, and they've just kitted us out with our uniform, which is great. And they will, by extension, be supporting OnBoard. So I hope to have a similar list of products with discount that OnBoard clubs and centres can access. It's likely to be around 30% off. So it's trade price plus VAT. Same deal, different sponsor.
Fabulous, thanks Hannah. And again, the community chest grant would be able to fund some buoyancy aids if you needed to make a purchase of some buoyancy aids. That community chest grant would fill that gap until such sponsorship then is agreed. I haven't got any more, so hopefully Ruth has some more to hand.
Brilliant. Yeah, I've got one which I guess is for Hannah, and I'm sure she'll agree with this. Is that one person has said to us, recording only new experiences doesn't reflect the work we do and what we're really trying to achieve in terms of retaining young sailors and making them feel, you know, part of what's going on. How are we now demonstrating or hoping to demonstrate, Hannah, going forward, retention with the OnBoard scheme?
Yeah, great question. Good point. We are only recording first experiences. What we're doing now, because we used to send out a very lengthy survey, which I'm sure lots of you have received, asking lots of questions about first sessions, 10th sessions, adults, children, and volunteers found that really, really hard. So we've stripped it right back to that one question. What we do on the back of that is we work with training to record certificate sales and how many people are going through their stage 1, 2, 3, 4 to record junior retention. And I know some people will order their certificates in bulk, so it's not a foolproof way of recording, but we know that they'll order their certificates and they will use them up eventually until they need to order some more. We also do the membership census every year, which if you're an affiliated club, you will receive, and we'll ask you to do that every year to record junior memberships. And so we record retention that way. And there's also a lot of hundreds of external surveys that are going on in the background, like the Arkenford Water Sports Survey, the Active Life Survey, which give us a bigger picture as to how our sport is doing, if it's healthy or if it's declining, and that is split up into adults and juniors. So we do have lots of ways to tell how our sport is doing with regards to new people and retention. So yeah, we just asked that one question for the moment. If we get enough people, if 260 clubs want to fill out a more detailed survey, we might bring it back. But for the moment, we're just trying to keep it as simple as possible. Hopefully that answers your question.
So yeah, just to, I guess to add to that bit, Hannah, we have two big surveys in Wales which underpin that. You mentioned Active Lives, which is the Sport England survey. Sport Wales have something that they call the School Sports Survey, and that very much is the way in which we hope young people demonstrate that they're taking part in sailing and windsurfing. At the moment, because we are quite a small sport in comparison to, say, something like rugby or football, the size of the sample we get through the School Sport Survey isn't huge. However, we do see spikes in key areas where we see really active onboard activity happening. So the real thing is to, you know, make sure when that School Sport Survey comes out that we're encouraging the kids in the club to answer that. And likewise, in terms of, you know, when you're maybe looking at running some family sessions attached to OnBoard, because I guess, you know, what I know, we all know that when we get the kids in, what we want to is maybe get the parents engaged, maybe offer them some opportunities to learn to sail as well. There's a survey that's now called the Wales National Survey, and that's actually a combined survey of all the different ones that were done by Public Health Wales, Natural Resources Wales, Sport Wales. All those big Welsh Government type surveys that are going on now are pulled together for adults into one big survey. It's only run once so far. We're not at the point where we've got the data from it, but this is the sort of stuff that we hope we can then take from that, this sort of stuff to demonstrate what and the good work that you guys are really, really doing with your fantastic OnBoard sessions. I've got one other question here, and I think this is one which is quite topical for us in Wales, is to, do we have any sort of specific onboard support available? And I think, we were in a very fantastic position a couple of years ago where we had officers that were funded specifically for onboard. We're now not in a position that which we have of officers that are specifically funded for onboard. However, all three, well, we will have hopefully a new regional development officer in North Wales as well, as Rosie's moved to the All Afloat post. Both Pete and Hester and myself have a good knowledge of the onboard scheme. So please come to us with any questions. We're here to support you. I think the real thing is that we're not going to be able to do what the onboard officers did before, which was the going into schools. But what we can do is to support you, help you make those connections with the local authorities to tie up, because I think all the local authorities in Wales are really, really keen to work with the opportunities in their local areas going forwards. So I think that's it on the question front for the time being. If anybody has any questions that occur to them after this, feel free to drop it through. We also intend there'll be a recording available after this. So a big thank you from anybody. Just check with Hannah and Hester if there's anything else you want to add before we run away. And then thank you very much for coming and taking part. Hester, Hannah?
No, that's all good.
You're all good. Brilliant. Well, thank you all for listening in. I hope this has been as informative as we can make it. Apologies if it has been a little bit interesting at times. I think we're on a big learning curve with this webinar programme, and we hope things can only get better. Brilliant.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Brilliant. Okay. Hello. It was okay, wasn't it? Hey, is Hannah still there? No, I think Hannah's gone as well. Yes. But it was yeah. Hopefully that'll be okay. And we might have